Hey, listen. Well, why is Ryan Garcia and them saying that and I know that they're not trying to fight you. So I know that they're going another direction. Am I wrong or am I right?
Man, you know Ryan Garcia's a bitch, man. Ryan Garcia be saying that he's fighting Manny Pacquiao.
Okay. But he's not even trying to fight you though, right? Let me
nah.
clear that up, right?
I never got any. The only person that has contacted me was Mike Coppinger from ESPN stating that they wanted to fight and stuff, but I never heard personally from Ryan Garcia. He's never called me out or anything. So all that I feel like all that's just baloney. It's all jibber jabber.
Right. Hey, listen, you and Devin the shit, and we ain't gonna let nobody kill it with none of that bullshit, none of them hypotheticals and them possibilities. You know what I mean? You and Devin is the next big fight that's gonna happen in boxing. I'm more than sure about it, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I look forward to it.
Man, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Take care. Have MTK reach out so we can make this thing happen.
I'll hit up Daniel. I'll hit up Paul right now and make that shit happen. We're gonna make that shit happen.
All right, bro. All right.
You and JoJo on the Boxing Voice last night. JoJo revealed that Michael Coppinger contacted him in order to tell him he wanted to see him fight Ryan, completely ignoring Devin Haney, even though JoJo fought for a title eliminator to fight Devin Haney. What's your thoughts on reporters calling fighters to tell them, hey, fight so-and-so and ignore the champion, don't fight the champion? You know, he completely ignored Devin Haney, and he reported that Ryan Garcia and JoJo are in heavy negotiations according to his sources. But JoJo told you last night that Ryan Garcia is the B word. He called him the B word, and he said, Ryan, he's trying to fight Pacquiao. That's not true. He's not trying to fight me. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that caught me by surprise. And you see, I didn't do anything to touch it because it's something that I don't know or understand it to happen. Is Mike to reach out to a fighter to tell another fighter that they want to make a fight happen. I thought, you would have an unbiased journalism. You do your best to reach out to each one of the fighters and get their side of it. To report then that Ryan Garcia says that he wants to fight, but then to say on the article says that his sources have something. It's a contradiction that I just don't want to necessarily touch in the sense of, that's between JoJo Diaz and Mike Coppinger.
And just to be fair, Mike Coppinger is not the only one. You see, Chris Mannix, he also did the same thing when he called the fight between JoJo and Fortuna. He kept asking JoJo about Ryan, and he completely ignored Devin Haney all night. So it's not just Michael Coppinger, but at the end of the day, you have to be unbiased as a journalist instead of pushing a certain agenda. But
yeah, I wouldn't have, out of respect, and I've seen Mike come up the ranks and to be over at ESPN. And I was expecting a little bit more detailed journalism, and the fact that he never mentioned Devin Haney in the article, or being a possibility that JoJo Diaz is going a different direction. It was altogether just didn't put Devin in there at all, which I don't want to think that Mike is being biased, and I don't want to think that he has a lack of knowledge or anything like that. It's just something that's it's like taboo. You don't even want to touch it, man. It's so crazy because I have so much respect for Mike Coppinger. You know what I'm saying? That I would expect different. And then for JoJo to say that Mike brought it to him, that Mike actually himself brought the fight to him, and JoJo saying that he's never heard Ryan talk about the fight at all. And then for Oscar to then push for the fight when Ryan is supposed to be recovering mentally, and then to come back and give him such a tough fight like that, right? Without Ryan requesting it, it seems like Golden Boy are doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. And that's in terms of Oscar. I think he's probably will be using the money to entice him to make the fight happen with Ryan, but I don't see Ryan right now ready. And I don't see him taking on JoJo Diaz or Devin Haney.
But as far as Michael Coppinger, it's definitely unprofessional, if anything, for him to report on ESPN that JoJo and Ryan are in negotiations, and his sources say that's a possible fight next for Ryan. But
JoJo, that's not what JoJo actually said. JoJo actually said that, he's like, Mike told me that shit. He's like, Mike told me that Ryan wants to fight me. Other than that, he doesn't do anything about it.
And contrary to that, JoJo is saying Ryan is the B word and he's trying to fight Pacquiao. And that's just what Michael Coppinger is telling him. So it's a whole lot of fishy things going on between Chris Mannix and Michael Coppinger. There's a lot of unprofessionalism going on. But that being said, hopefully that fight comes to fruition. I don't see why not. Like I pointed out on the show, Devin Haney, his last fight, he was paid 10 times what JoJo was paid. So this fight is a no-brainer for JoJo. JoJo earned his right to fight Devin Haney next by becoming the mandatory, beating Javier Fortuna. So it's only right for him to fight Devin Haney next and make all the money in the world. His biggest payday to this day. I mean, to put icing on the cake, Devin Haney is also champion. So there is no reason whatsoever for JoJo Diaz to go a different route and fight Ryan Garcia, who doesn't have a title, who's coming off anxiety. And also, you're really not going to get your biggest payday fighting Ryan. Ryan has a lot of social media followers, but like Oscar De La Hoya said, that haven't translated to actual fans that's tuning in to watch the fights. So with that being said, old media is so unprofessional, calling JoJo Diaz, such as Michael Coppinger, telling JoJo Diaz, hey, I would like you to fight Ryan Garcia, and gets a couple quotes from JoJo in order to write an article on ESPN. Then come to find out, JoJo says Ryan Garcia is the B word. He ain't trying to fight. He over here trying to fight Pacquiao, pretty much clowning Ryan Garcia. So according to the fighter himself, JoJo, he haven't heard anything from Ryan Garcia. What is Michael Coppinger talking about? But this is the agenda they pushing, is complete blacklist the fighters on the coincidental list. That's the agenda. That's the plan. You see Chris Mannix commentating during the Javier Fortuna versus JoJo Diaz fight. He completely ignored Devin Haney when they fighting for Devin Haney mandatory position to become his mandatory to fight him next within 90 days. Chris Mannix and Tom Grisham, they completely ignored Devin Haney. They said that they want to see JoJo Diaz fight Ryan Garcia. They kept talking about that throughout the whole night. And to make matter worse, they even lied on Devin Haney's name, claiming that Devin Haney avoided Javier Fortuna, when it's a fact that Javier Fortuna turned down a fight with Devin Haney on 3 different occasions, when he was a mandatory and before he was a mandatory. Javier Fortuna's own manager, I believe, Samson, already came out and admitted that Javier Fortuna turned down a Devin Haney fight on 3 different occasions, and they straight up lied on Devin Haney's name, a fighter that actually fights on the zone, for a fighter that don't even fight on the zone. So you see Michael Coppinger, you see the agenda he pushing, this complete blacklist certain fighters from getting the meaningful fights that the fans want to see. Michael Coppinger was the same guy. Just to give y'all an example, compare 2 different situations, how they treat 2 different fighters from the coincidental list and the hope list. When Canelo Alvarez was fighting Avni Yildirim, a fighter coming off a loss, Michael Coppinger, when he reported the news of Canelo Alvarez fighting Avni Yildirim, Michael Coppinger never criticized Canelo. He never pointed out the fact that Avni Yildirim was coming off a loss. He never pointed out the fact that Canelo requested to fight Avni Yildirim. And he ignored that Canelo Alvarez lost his contract, $365 million, for choosing to fight Avni Yildirim because the zone rejected the fight on more than one occasion. They said, we're not paying you $33 million to fight Avni Yildirim. And they ended up actually going to a lawsuit, and Canelo lost his contract. Now he's making less money today because of that, right? So when Michael Coppinger reported the news of Canelo fighting Avni Yildirim, he completely ignored all of the above. But when Devin Haney announced that he was fighting Jorge Linares, it was Michael Coppinger who reported that Jorge Linares lost to Lomachenko and he lost to this guy. And he completely trying to discredit Devin Haney already. They already making excuses ahead of time to when Devin Haney wins. But they didn't do that with Canelo Alvarez, who was actually fighting a fighter coming off a loss. But when Devin Haney fought a fighter that's coming off a knockout win, Jorge Linares, who Ryan Garcia is ducking or was avoiding at the time and avoided the fight on more than one occasion, they didn't point out none of them facts. They only try to discredit Devin Haney by pointing out Jorge Linares' shortcomings. But when it came to Avni Yildirim, they didn't point out any shortcomings at all. To make matter worse, they couldn't point out any victories he had anyway. So that's just to show you a side-by-side comparisons of how they treat two different fighters from the coincidentalist and the hopeless. And Michael Coppinger, he continued to push his agenda, his narrative.
Hold it. You're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Wait. I still got the wall. I got the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.